Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome, everyone. What an amazing day. What an amazing day. I can't stop to take pictures of all these incredible lines of families and children joining us in the Space Day, in the day that is open to all. We are going to leave the doors open so that more people can come. I'm Elena Rocchi, clinical professor at Arizona State University. And today I'm with incredible people, but especially with you, Jessica.
Hello, everyone. This is working? Maybe not. No. Okay. I'll skip over here. Welcome all. It's really wonderful to see so many folks here, and hopefully we have some more families and children joining us today to share this premiere of a film that we've been working on for a couple of years. So my name is Jessica Rousset, and I head strategic research initiatives at Arizona State University, both for space and for healthcare. And this is really a research project, the culmination of a research project where we ask the question, not just why we as humans have this drive to explore, but more importantly, what can we learn from historical exploration activities that we've conducted over the years here on Earth so that we can move forward in a more mindful and thoughtful way as we embark on this next journey off planet. And so you're going to hear from a cast of 22 characters in 32 minutes and representing all kinds of disciplines and perspectives, not all perspectives. And then after the 32 minutes, 4 of the 22 experts will join us here up on the stage to have a conversation. Now, the film does not answer any questions. It really raises a lot of topics and important discussion opportunities. So this is a piece meant to generate dialogue. And we can take it in all kinds of different directions, all right? So the goal of this piece is to engage broad audiences around the world. This is the first time we're sharing it with a diverse and broad audience. And so we want you to participate in the conversation. And so we've designed a few prompts. That's the QR code over there. So we invite you to scan it and to respond to these 4 prompts at any time during the film, preferably before we start the conversation, because that's going to be the tee-off point for the rest of the discussion. We want the panelists to address what's most important to all of you.
I want to thank IAC for hosting us today in the public day. For us, it's an honor to actually share what it has been an incredible journey with all these people. We need to think about ourselves becoming interplanetary, but we can only think together. One of the things that I've understood in the last 2 years of the project is we need to develop a common language. We need to have, as Tanya is always insisting on, to have a common ground for all of us to come together, to sit at the table and understand what the common language is. And me as an architect, I did find that design, imagination, creativity is a language. So we're going to leave you with this language. The QR code is there. It's a future that in this movie is asking you for a deeper reflection and really having the input from as many of us is what we are looking for. Can we turn the light down and just check? Good. Enjoy it.
Why do people
We are at an amazing time in history. It's the moment in the evolution of our species when we are leaving Earth permanently for the very first time. 300,000 years of development, and our technology, our collective intellect and societal development has allowed us at this moment in history, while we're alive, to build a space station and have people living there for the last 25 years, to have sent a few early explorers to the moon, and now be on the cusp of putting the first permanent habitation on the moon, and probes heading across the solar system looking for other worthwhile and possible places for us to live. Just as our ancestors, for the very first time, left Africa, 80,000 years ago, got to Australia, maybe 75,000, got to the Americas, maybe 18,000 years ago, got to New Zealand 800 years ago, got to Antarctica a little over 100 years ago. We work, we gather, we create, we develop, and then we explore, and then we make some new part of the universe, part of our experience. And that's where we are in spaceflight right now. So how should we do it? The film you're about to watch tries to answer that question. What is the purpose of it? Why do we inherently do these things? Is that ever going to change? And maybe most importantly, what have we done in the past? What have we done right? What have we done wrong? How can we learn from the hundreds of thousands of years of human development so far to try and take this amazing moment in history, when we are starting not just to settle on a space station, but to settle on another body orbiting the sun, on the moon, eventually Mars and beyond? How can we do it to the best of our abilities? How can we learn from our own history to do this as right as we possibly can and avoid the pitfalls maybe that have trapped us in the past? That's the purpose of this movie. I want you to watch it, listen to all the expertise on the screen, think about it, and then take action afterwards. Think about what you're going to do in your own choices and the influence you have to help be part of the group of people that allow humanity to go through this next stage of development as well as we possibly can. I'm Chris Hadfield. Enjoy the film.
The film you are about to see won't give you simple answers about our future beyond Earth. Instead, it invites you to journey with us through stories of exploration, of culture, of possibility. It's a space to reflect, to ask your own questions, to imagine what humanity's journey to other worlds might mean for all of us and for you.
Why do science? Or art, for that matter? Why do anything that doesn't increase our bottom line or make us more comfortable?
Life is constantly trying to reach new horizons and try to expand. That's why we have legs, right? Why would life give us these tools for mobility if it was content by just being in one little place? Our desire for exploration is just a word that we've come up to kind of express this force that is within us.
I think the truth is that people explore because we can't help it. It's in our genes. We just want to see what's over that hill. We want to see the thing that's never been seen before. We want to step in the place that hasn't been stepped in. I just think it's how humans are.
And that basic urge of needing the new, I think, is just absolutely core to the human experience.
It's curious to me that when you're a child developing, evolution has given us the ability to walk long before evolution gives us the ability to talk or to even understand language. And I think that is our innate necessity to go see, to go experience things.
So thank goodness we have this within us, and now we're just ready for the next step.
4, 3, 2, 1, mark.
If you paddle your boat down the Rhine River in Germany and you know exactly where to stop and get out of your boat, and you climb up a hill, it is one of those places with the long, steep banks. And halfway up one of them, there's a cave. And it's a really good cave to live in. It's got the right combination of temperature and shelter and such. So animals, including people, have been living there for millennia. And we have found human remains in that cave from 40 and 50,000 years ago. And what delights me is one of the things we found in that cave in southern Germany is a musical instrument. It's someone took the leg bone of a bird. It was like a vulture or a crane or something. And some birds have hollow bones. So because it's a long, hollow thing, if you blow in one end, it makes a whistling noise. And somebody realized that if you punch a couple holes in, you can change the tone of the noise. And what's amazing is, even though this bone is 42,000 years old, it can still be played, and it naturally follows the diatonic scale, or whatever it's called, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, And I would just love to be able to somehow get into a time machine and step off that boat in the Rhine, walk up that hill, and walk into that cave with a 6-string guitar. Because as soon as I strummed a chord and sang a note, whoever it was that made that flute would get it. And they would pick up their flute, and within 5 minutes, we would be learning about each other. We would be laughing. We could make each other cry. We would be sharing the fundamental nature of humanity, even though we have no culture and no temporal reference in common. The art bridges it all. And it is absolutely our most basic and necessary form of exploration.
I think art is exploration. It asks the question, what does it mean to be human, just the same way that going to the moon does.
If you really want to extend, our civilization so it lasts forever, you need to leave our solar system. This is really an endless adventure.
We are just now, for the first time ever, capable of space exploration. We were not capable 100 years ago. If we were, we would have been doing it 100 years ago. The fact that we can even imagine technologies, and we still have lots of work to do to get them working. We can at least imagine now the technologies for space exploration is a natural next step in humanity's evolution.
Wherever we go, we take ourselves with us, right? Including all the disparities, all of the unequal stakes. How are we to course correct?
It will be tough. It will be hard to find common ground. But on the other hand, I think that we should continue to strive for that, and we should also believe in it, because if we don't believe in it from the start, then it is a bleak picture that we're calling upon us. It's extremely important to continue efforts to try to get everyone around the table, as hard as it can be. And often this is much easier at lower levels of scientists and engineers who want to work together, but at government level, it's often difficult. I think a lot of silent diplomacy be done. I think we have to be a bit optimistic and hopeful.
When you look at the planet, we are at a point where there's so fragile right now. Our relationships and the power that we have at our fingertips so huge that could actually literally affect the planet to a point of no return. So it's time to talk, it's time to collaborate, it's time to really figure this out, because the way that we have done it in the past is no longer valid, because we are so many.
There is this theory that says if everything is just left and everybody just goes and grabs and first come, first served and gold diggers, what will happen is that it will completely spoil the environment forever and ever, meaning no one will enjoy the benefits that it may bring. So that is what is the tragedy of the commons. And to avoid that, you have to work together and agree on guidelines and principles of behavior.
At the basic human level, I think we all actually have much more in common. I know we have much more in common. And I just try to focus on those things that we share, how we can work together, what I can learn from so many different cultures and different friends.
When people talk about what's possible in the space industry, I feel like everything's always upside down. that people will say things like, well, it's not possible to share stuff with other nations, but it's totally possible to build an underground bunker on Mars. And it's like, wow, what? How is that? It's incredible. If it is really possible, even theoretically, even eventually, to build an underground bunker on Mars, then it's possible for the US to talk to China. That's got to be possible. So, one of my frustrations with space talk is this, again, weird inversion of what's possible. Yes, of course it's possible.
I think there's a lot of different ways in which, if we had a better understanding of this and how deep space and the cosmos is in all of our cultures, I think we might find new sources of energy and motivation to work towards building the capacity to learn more from the planets and the stars and the cosmos, and even to voyage farther out.
Lindy Elkins-Tanton is fond of saying it takes a species to explore space. And I think that's right on target.
It's going to move exploration forward faster the more we share with each other.
Part of the challenge with learning from the past is that we cannot necessarily change some of the fundamental aspects of who we are as humans and some of the motivations that lead us to explore in the first place. And even though many of it is positive, it's not all positive. And we need to mitigate some of that negativity in a more careful way as we plan for the future.
The risk aversion is a terrible disease. And it goes in my mind right along with people who say, I wish I didn't have to work so hard. Work aversion and risk aversion, I feel like are the same thing. The fact that you have risk that you're able to take and that you have work that you're able to do are both gigantic privileges that give you an opportunity to go somewhere where you are not right now, mentally or physically, or in terms of your creative process. We are going to have to embrace and accept a higher level of risk. And I'm a fan of believing that if the individual understands the risk and embraces it as a privilege, we should let them do it.
Maybe, something to have in the back of our minds is that a great failure would be to not attempt to learn about the universe and to expand human settlement beyond Earth and so on. I think that would perhaps be the greatest failure of all. A failure of curiosity and a failure of enthusiasm and a sense of adventure.
Do you think your species is worth it? You do things with it besides just survive and have a comfortable life. Do something.
We have a lot of work to do, and I do think it's really important because it diverges. Our choices, kind of come to a fork in the road, and how are we going to do exploration more for peaceful purposes, militaristic options, and financial gain options, and those are we have to talk about all of them because they're all realities. But I hope we get the mix right.
It's a lot harder to retrofit, unwind, or repair things than it is to do them the right way from the very start. So giving that thought to what's the long-term consequences of the steps I'm about to take, and therefore building that into how I go about doing my exploration is important.
We can have a shared experience. We could also be more careful and learn from past mistakes about exploitation and colonization and even contamination, for instance, when we brought diseases over to the New World.
When I look at history and I look at how we did things, I try and be forgiving. I try and be thoughtful and recognize that we have a certain set of societal rules and expectations and ethos and culture right now, but it's different than it was 100 or 500 or 1,000 or 10,000 years ago. And we tend to think that everybody before us was a little bit stupider than we are. They didn't even have computers. They didn't have communication. They couldn't have been nearly as bright as we are. There's a great arrogance to being alive. But people were exactly the same 1,000 years ago. They just had a different set of tools and a different cultural set of norms. So as the current living group of Homo sapiens, provided now with tools and technology that enable us more than any time in history, I think it has never been more important to try and learn from what those forebears did and said, and the mistakes and the successes that they had, and do as well as we possibly can. We're going to make mistakes too, but maybe by learning from the past, we don't have to make quite so many.
One thing that I think people might not think about immediately when they think of settlement in space, I think it can be quite a strong uniting force amongst all people on Earth. In other words, one of the things that's so remarkable about the International Space Station is even during periods of conflict between countries, there's still cooperation amongst those countries on the space station. When we're on Earth, we sometimes feel a division between people because I'm from one country and you're from another country, and our countries may or may not be getting along. But when we're in space, we're all from the same place.
Apollo Soyuz comes right to mind. We're at the height of the Cold War. Things are not going well, to say the least, between the US and the Soviet Union. And one handshake in space, it was momentous. I mean, it helped bring humanity together, to say we can overcome, some differences and things like that.
We now have technological means to do things that we didn't have before. We have ways to conceptualize resource acquisition in which people on Earth could be freer to be more artistic, freer to be more creative, freer to have more leisure time, more time spent with their families, spent with the planet, because we found a way where we don't have to consume the planet to achieve the things that we want to achieve, because we've built machines and tools and assets that do that off the planet.
As we look across all the planets that we know about in the universe, Mars is one of the planets that is most like Earth. It's kind of our smaller cousin, a little bit further away from the sun, but otherwise more or less the same. A rocky world with an atmosphere that once had lakes, rivers, hydrothermal systems, but yet it's very cold and dry today. And so the question is, why did Earth and Mars grow up to be such different worlds? And what does that say about the preciousness of our own planet, how our own planet works to maintain this beautiful orb of habitats for us? Did Mars ever have life? Does it still? Underground, probably. It's a bit cold and dry at the surface, but underground there are ices and perhaps water. That would be such a huge discovery if there were, but even if there's not, I think this is a planet that we absolutely must understand to understand ourselves.
We've got to worry about these longer term things, like where are we going and where are we headed? What does it all mean? And how are we going to be successful, not just 100 years from now or 10 years from now, but 10,000 years from now?
You have to be realistic. You have to paint the future and what should it be like. As artists, filmmakers, storytellers, writers, plastic artists, architects, what does this future, this positive future, and we can make it.
I keep thinking that the people who first started thinking deeply about these questions, the biggest picture questions, not the technical, were the poets and the philosophers. And in fact, the first English use of the word space appears in line 650 of Book 1 of Milton's Paradise Lost. He says space can contain many worlds. So he envisions this idea that space is the absolute out of which everything arises, including our world, which is not singular, and other worlds.
Art is a way to change your perspective on something, to either give you fully a new perspective, like in the case of a story, or to sort of disturb the way in which you see so that you see differently after the encounter with whatever piece of art.
The famous photograph of, I think it's called Earthrise. It was taken by astronauts on the moon, and it's of the Earth coming up over the horizon of the moon. Famous photograph that is sometimes credited with starting the whole environmental movement in the United States and elsewhere on Earth. I think that space exploration has historically helped us realize what a special place we have. What an exquisitely beautiful and precious thing our planet is.
I'll give you an example of a shifting worldview where, long ago, we believed that the Earth was the center of the universe, right? And now we know that the Earth and humanity are not, in fact, at the center of the universe. And even though we orbit the sun itself is not also in the center of the universe. And even though our sun orbits the center of the galaxy, of the Milky Way galaxy, our galaxy is not the center of the universe. And so just by knowing you're not the center of the universe, I think can invoke a sense of humility we all could use a little bit more of. So I think that if we really found life elsewhere, then our sense of existence, our sense of centrality, right, would be muted a little bit. And perhaps in some dream world, this humility will translate into treating your neighbor better, treating other countries better, treating the planet better.
I think it is in our nature that we're going to be a multiplanetary species, an interplanetary species, and Mars is the best place to live in the solar system that's not Earth. You can't take off your helmet and breathe, but other than that, it has all of the elements that we need. So making humanity multiplanetary is something that I think is both kind of baked into us, but is also prudent from a societal perspective in terms of having off-world outposts of our culture.
The opportunity of space exploration is to reimagine our place on Earth, to see ourselves more clearly in the complexity of the universe.
Artists have conceptualized stars and asteroids that have never actually been seen except by telescopes. And long before telescopes, they were even conceptualizing things. Poets and writers and dreamers have thought about everything off Earth. And then beginning in the 18th and 19th century, particularly the 19th century, the science fiction writers, conceptualizing us being, an interplanetary species.
The story of the journey from the Earth to the Moon in Jules Verne's book in 1865 is of three people leaving from the coast of Florida in a journey that takes 3 days. Essentially the exact same parameters for the original Apollo missions 100 years later in the 1960s.
So what happens in all of these things is that all of the arts, visual arts, the creative arts, the expressive arts, all of them become empowered by our species in its expansion.
I think art is the beginning of everything. The paintings, I always speak about The Ladder to the Moon by George O'Keeffe. I always start my conversations with art, how art has influenced not only me, but most all of us.
Fundamentally, without art, we don't have culture. And I could almost say without art, we don't have humanity, and especially the humane aspects of humanity.
I think this is two halves of the same coin.
Often this leads to seeing through other people's eyes. Painting in particular has had a long tradition of genuinely painting from the perspective of somebody else. And so you see quite literally through their eyes. And in space art, this was one of the very important innovations that now through space art, before we even flew into space, people painted pictures through the eyes of somebody who was off of the Earth. And all of a sudden that gave a new perspective on what is possible.
We have this extraordinary opportunity at this moment to consider what the effects of our activities are going to be. So if we go there and we don't act in cautious ways, I think that we will make mistakes and we will cause damage that is likely irreversible.
It really is imperative that we feel we're all part of a common narrative And although we may see it from different points of view, it has to be a collective effort. And I would say much more than a national effort. It needs to be a global effort. And that's a challenge.
No matter how many good ideas one of us has or a group of us has, there's an entire planet full of people here on Earth that have good ideas and skills that I probably don't even understand are valuable because it's a perspective I don't have. And so a world where you assume good intent and you also assume that there are perspectives that you have yet to understand and may never understand, but realize that with those perspectives come solutions, ideas, and important relationships. To do these things alone is just not the way to do it.
The story that we need to tell much better, how space exploration is, of course, about knowing the unknown and exploring the universe and finding resources, but it's also really an extra dimension. It's an excellent tool for making life on Earth better.
One of the great things I love about being in the space business is that there's space for everyone. Every single kind of skill, every single kind of career that you can think of, there is space in space for that kind of person, that kind of skill set, that kind of experience.
It's not just rocket science. It's not just engineering. It's not just astrophysics. It is politics and economics and social science and psychology and medicine and philosophy and religion and art and so many, many things that's beyond the ability or expertise of any one area of human endeavor.
We cannot fight climate change or even know what's going on with the changes in our climate without using space technology, agriculture, disaster management, telemedicine, health, all these things. There are so many applications of space. So I think that possibilities are so endless that humankind's curiosity and drive to discover that will not stop.
Today, everything that we do, we should put on top of it the survival of species and the planet, because they're key to our survival. We are part of nature. We are not humans here and nature here. We're all one and the same. The system is all interconnected.
It is so vast and we are so tiny and there is so much to be discovered.
And when people live someplace, it should reflect who they are, not just what they need. Why else are we there?
We're only a blink, not even that, in the history of this immense universe. And so having those kind of encounters where we experience that awe, that wonder, I think is really important.
I think space exploration should, in its ideal form, promote humility. And if there is a way that we can be driven by the global good that will come from space exploration and not by the prestige and egos of a few, then I think we'll be well on our way.
Just that faith, really that faith that if we stick together, we could actually survive, we could get this done.
Don't think that this is something that is beyond you. It isn't.
The future is very bright. I think we're going to do it better. We're going to do it better because more people are watching.
Every culture has told space stories. And what is beautiful is that because there are different cultures, they are different stories. They have different values in them. They have different goals, they have different structures, they have different characters. And this provides a richness to how we, as people all around the world, engage with space that you don't get simply from looking at a rocket or a spacecraft or a space launch. That is only one part of the way in which humans engage with space. Personally, my first engagements with space were not through spaceflight. They came from my father telling me the Greek myths and then pointing out that in the heavens there was Orion, and there was Orion's belt, and there is the dog Sirius chasing after you. And I encountered that as a young Canadian, and so for me that has a very winter feel. It's a feel of looking up into the night sky and the stars in the cold and in the still air, and that gives a particular cultural and narrative flavor to my experience of engagement with the heavens. But that will not be the same, obviously, if someone tells exactly the same story in Australia. And for me, that's what's beautiful. That is what I think we need to understand better. I think we need a much deeper understanding and a much broader understanding of the role of space and the heavens and the stars and the planets and the moon and the sun in our culture.
You know why I wanna get back soon. You know why I wanna get back soon.
Thank you for watching. Our story as an interplanetary species is being written faster than ever, and in many ways, it is just beginning. Even if you never leave this planet, it is still your adventure, because every decision related to space shapes our life here on Earth. Throughout the ages, we've seen the courage of a few and the choices of many alter the course of history. The future isn't waiting, but it is calling. As we step toward other worlds, how will you answer?
So I'm going to invite our panelists to join us, Guy, Deva, Tanya, Jim. And in the meantime, can I ask you to scan again the QR code? Can I see it? Yeah, if you could leave that, because I do have a presentation. We would like to receive more answers. Thank you so much for watching. Over the last 2 years, I've been thinking in this question, why do we explore? Why do all living things explore? Why do we walk? 70,000 years ago, our ancestors left Africa and reached Australia, the Americas, New Zealand, even Antarctica. And just as our ancestors, we now stand on the cusp of crossing worlds, living off the Earth on a space station, sending probes across the solar system, preparing to settle on the moon and beyond. We work, we gather, we create, we develop, and we explore. And everything started as our first engagement with space by doing one thing we all have in common: looking up into the night sky and the stars. But we all agree that the same story is told differently each time. And actually, I've just learned the story of looking up at the sky in Australia. And for me, that is what is beautiful. I started this project with the Interplanetary Initiative in search of probably answers. But then I say maybe new questions. And so with incredible people, including the ones that are sitting in front of you and meeting every 3 weeks with astronaut Chris Hadfield, we explore the conversation and even tried to understand those conversations in forms that were beyond the language. And today we have 4 incredible experts, and what you can see on the screen is actually their answer, but in a different language, a language that probably is common to all of us. It's the language of form. Our participant today will invite us probably to reflect, and I want to start with Dr. Deva Newman, the Apollo Program Professor of Astronautics, because all the time that I met with her, she was insisting on the necessity of exploring for peaceful purposes. So, Deva, how do we explore? Why do we explore?
Thank
when?
you. Thank you, Elena. Thank you, Jessica. Yeah, it's amazing. First, everyone, can we give them another round of applause for, I think it was an amazing movie. So, amazing, multiple years of work. And so it's just a privilege to be here with you. And thank you for all the audience. Why do we explore is how I usually start. And it is probably fundamental, I think. And here's my 3 big questions. Are we alone in the universe? Likely not. Are there other habitable planets? I have 6,000 exoplanets that we're exploring. 24 of them are really, really interesting. And when we find life elsewhere. And the evidence is mounting. The evidence is mounting from exoplanets coming closer into the solar system. We look at our ocean worlds, moons of the planets in our solar system are amazing places. They're ocean worlds. And when we look for life, carbon-based life, we say follow the water. So we're going to these oceans to take a look what's there. And it's like a chemistry lab, is, candy shop of chemistry, that life, I think, just wants to exist. And Mars gets my bet. It's crazy, it's harsh, it's cold, but we're going there. And we'll probably find past life, as was mentioned in the movie. Earth and Mars, sister ships, 4.5 billion years old each. And life worked out pretty well for us here. Mars, maybe not, but I do have to think that Mars potentially had life or life support systems, and so that's why we're so eager. The big scientific question that propels all of our exploring with rovers, with orbiters, and eventually humans to Mars is to just find that evidence. You'll seek the evidence of life, not because it's way out there, but as was said in the movie so elegantly, because it tells us much more about who we are as a species and our kind of fragile, blue planet, and how we can maybe take care of it by reaching out, but to really look for those inner answers that we have thriving here, hopefully together on Earth.
Thank you, Deva. The reason why I'm here is because I love conversation that actually are always putting me in a difficult situation. And I think that someone yesterday, forgive me, I'm getting a little older, I forget sometimes the things, but someone told me, isn't all this new program and this new life you are doing in Arizona a new way for you to explore? And absolutely, but we are empowered. And Guillermo Trotti, a very famous international recognized architect and industrial designer, actually is the reason why I started probably my next exploration. He founded the program, the first program of space architecture in Houston, SIGSA. And he's joining us now at Arizona State University. And we speak many times about the fundamental question. But we have understood how to add a new word. How do we explore? And why do we explore together? Guy, why do we explore together?
Well, I think we have always explored together. There was no single explorer. I mean, there are missions now, exploration missions, but when it comes to us humans exploring the planet, we always did it in groups, small and large. And I think that Hadfield had it right. I mean, it's just innate in us, and we have been doing this for millennia, and the key now is that we're going to places that are not natural to us because we don't have atmospheres. We have a huge amount of radiation that affects us in space. We need to be protected. So it's highly technological to embark in the exploration of space. But at the end of the day, if we're exploring with humans, we're still humans, no matter where we go. So that need, of collaboration, and creating an environment that is, adaptable to work and happiness and flourishing, whether we do it here on the moon, close by to us, or far away on Mars. But essentially, and I think for the next, I imagine, century, if not a couple of centuries, in generations, until we actually create, until humans actually start reproducing outside this planet, we are doing it for the Earth, I think, in many ways. I think everything that we do in terms of space today is about the Earth. Is how do we make life better for us here? What are the lessons that we learned from this exploration that actually enhance and our lives here, as well as protect the planet? So I think that's really the key question right now, is how do we explore these other environments without harming them, learning from the mistakes that we have made during particularly the Industrial Revolution, as we initially innocently and eventually from greed, we have really damaged the planet significantly. And how do we reverse that, and how we do not do that in the future?
I was bringing some of the work that we are doing with our students, but I want to move into the conversation with Dr. Tanya Masson-Zwan, an assistant professor and deputy director of the International Institute of Air and Space Law at Leiden University. I think we met in person today. I think we started initially to meet over Zoom in our conversation. But what is fascinating of the conversation that I still remember is this idea of building the common ground. And you say, it will be tough. It will be hard. But how do we explore? So, Tanya, finding this common ground, what do you see from your perspective and from the research that you're doing for finding this common ground?
Yeah, thank you, Elena, and congratulations again on the movie. I do think that is really the hardest challenge for humanity, to do things together, and especially in the world that we live in today, that is so divided and complicated. And I think it is our duty to, as I said also in the movie, I think, to be positive and to continue to try. If we don't do that, if we are not positive, then we can stop every effort. So I see it as a duty to continue, even though sometimes the United Nations can be criticized because there's no progress and states will never agree on things, and we don't have any new treaty since 1979, and that was like the Moon Agreement that has only 17 states that signed up to it. We still have to continue those discussions in those multilateral fora with states coming together. We still have to think of the International Space Station, where we have had more than 25 years of continued presence of many different states that have been living and working together despite troubles on Earth. And so let us believe in that. And I think, therefore, it's also important to continue to tell that story. And that's why I also really like the movie that you guys made, because it helps making people aware of how important space is for life on Earth. As you said also, Guy, I think that is really important. Before perhaps we become interplanetary, we should also realize the value of space for life on Earth. And really, we are living in space. We are planet Earth. We are on a planet, right? And so that realization of the Earth-space connectedness, I think, is really essential in our discussions on eventually becoming interplanetary. It may not be in my life, but I'm sure that it will happen. And I agree with everybody who says we have to do it right. Can we do it right? We're not really showing much hope maybe at the moment in the world we live on. But let us continue to try and to strive for that. Otherwise, we can stop everything today.
And what is incredible of being today in this event on the Space Day, on the Common Day, and with all of you, the public, that you are now part of this story. There's no excuse. And people were saying, why do we explore? To find out where they come from and meaning to their lives, the humans. We are built for learning. We are exploring because of our human nature. And we are mainly exploring because we need to understand our past, our present, and our future. Because in this idea of developing languages, we do need to understand our cultures. It's not just like Lance was saying, rocket science. It is about philosophy. It is about medicine. It is about culture. Dr. Jim Bell, my friend and professor of the School of Earth and Space Exploration, Arizona State University, that's probably a job that through this movie I've understood I always wanted to do. My name is Rocchi. I think that I always wanted to work with rocks. Jim, welcome. You are in the space business. And one of the things that I will never forget is when you say something that Paolo Nespoliso was repeating, that in space there is space for all. Is that the answer of why we explore, or can you elaborate on that? Because we have an audience that probably can find that space in space.
Absolutely, I believe that. First of all, congratulations on this beautiful film, both of you. And I soak up your passion. It's just beautiful. It's beautiful to see this, and it's beautiful to be optimistic about this because it's so easy to be pessimistic. It's harder to be optimistic. Let's do hard things, right? No, I believe that space has space for everyone. In fact, I had the pleasure of talking with a group of UNSW students this week, and one of the fellows who was helping to transport us around was he was saying, "Oh, I'm studying law, but I don't know anything about space, and law is not for space law. What is that?" I said, "Did you know that there is space law right now?" And I'm thinking of you. "No, what are you talking about?" And I said, "Well, don't you think that there's treaties and regulations, and don't you think there'll be crime in space eventually, and need lawyers and cops, and the hotels that are up there are going to need chefs and front desk people, and and we need the artists, and we need the performers and the musicians." So amazing to see Chris and Katie doing, performing music in space, right? And talking about the ancient roots of music. I work with many different students at ASU. I teach a class called Space Business and Entrepreneurship. And it's not just, like Lance says, not just rocket scientists. It's not engineers and scientists. There's business people there. There's arts people there. There's marketing people there. There's supply chain people there, right? And the entire spectrum of expertise and interests are going to be required if we take our species into space, because we're not just taking us and a few bodies, we're taking our species. And I just want to just echo one thing that Tanya, you said in the film. When we go, if we can make it, if we can figure out how to survive in the harshest environments that humans have ever encountered, places like the moon and Mars, asteroids, wherever, that make Antarctica look like a tropical wonderland, right? If we can figure out how to sustain ourselves, live off the land where we can, survive and thrive, all of that technology, maybe not even on purpose, just naturally will make life better on the Earth. Because we need all those skills here too, right? It's a finite resources on this amazing planet that is made for us, that we are made for. And so I'm going to choose to be optimistic, and I'm going to choose to think that the world of space is a big tent. It's a big tent that has lots of room for everybody. And so I hope everybody here will join.
Thank you. A few years ago, I met Jessica Rousset. She's the Executive Director of Strategic Initiative in the Office of the Vice President of Research Knowledge Enterprise at Arizona State University. The time I met her, she was the Executive Director of one very fascinating thing that was titled Interplanetary Initiative. And through the mentorship of all these people that you see, I actually joined this initiative, and we like to think with Jessica that we are now partner in crimes, or in crime, I don't know to say, but I want her to share probably some words and the collection of what you have expressed as you are becoming now part of this panel.
Yes, thank you. I guess I will share that I'm a perfect example, teeing off of what you just said, Jim, of someone who's very new to space, never really considered a career in space. I'm a biochemical engineer by training. My career has been in healthcare and life sciences, and yet I found a home, truly, in this community. It's been incredible, and it also makes me, when I reflect on why we explore, it feels to me that humans have a unique attraction to discomfort and hardship for the purpose of personal growth, for learning about new things about ourselves and to fundamentally evolve as a species that I don't know necessarily exists in the animal kingdom other than humans. And so when you're not part of when you're 20 years in your career, you're comfortably there, and then you take a jump and try something completely new where nothing defines you. It's scary, but we do it. We do it. Why? I don't know. I think that's our sort of fundamental sense of why we explore, is we want to do the scary things because we learn about ourselves and we change and we evolve. But with that, I'm going to shift things over and we're going to throw some questions back down the line. But teeing off of what you all shared in the multiple choice. So I'm going to start with what gives you hope? So let me just find that over here. Okay. So resoundingly, so there were 4 options for those of you that are not on the QR code, and I keep losing it. So just a sec here. All right. So there was the chance of discovering new worlds and ideas, and resoundingly you chose that as what gives you the most hope. And then there was, and this is very annoying. Okay, protecting Earth by learning more about it from space, using science and technology to solve big problems, and then bringing people together from all backgrounds. So those were the options, and you all went with the first. So I am going to ask, I'll start with Jim. So many here were inspired by curiosity, right? Seeking new knowledge and uncharted possibilities, whether through science, culture, or art. So where do you see the greatest potential for discovery? And we can all tackle this from different angles. So scientific, social, personal, okay? When humans settle in new worlds. And what impact do you hope these discoveries will have on humanity as a whole? Yeah.
Me first?
Please,
okay.
Please.
Okay. Surprise, surprise, I'll take the scientific perspective. One of the things that's driving us right now scientifically, globally, is the search for life elsewhere off our planet, right? And as Davis so eloquently pointed out, Mars is probably on the top of that list because it has the combination of the environment and it's close in quotes, easy to get to compared to other places. But there's a half a dozen places just in our solar system that are on that list. And people will be out there in the centuries to come. I'm actually surprisingly a little bit more excited about Europa than Mars, right? Liquid water ocean, 2 or 3 times the volume of the Earth's oceans, in contact with a hot silicate crust, just like the ocean floor, volcanoes coming out. Our ocean floor is teeming with life that doesn't know anything about the sun, right? And Europa's been that way for billions of years. So who knows what's swimming in the oceans of Europa today, right? But it's going to take us going there to figure that out. We go there right now through our robotic avatars, and that's been what my career has been focused on, using robotic avatars to project us out there. If anybody ever tells you the robots are exploring space, don't believe them. It's people who are driving the robots, commanding them, coding them, telling them what to do, and they are doing amazing work on our behalf because we can't go out there. But of course, we want to go there. We want to go there and study these places and learn and bring the lessons of life on Earth and the formation of life on Earth to those other places and find out, fundamentally, are we alone? Are we alone?
I'm not going to answer that. I think we explore probably also to discover ourselves. I really liked in the movie, it was, I think, Chris who said, we have legs and we walk before we even speak. And so I really think that it is innate to humanity to explore. So we should not try to stop it. And so there, I'm speaking as a lawyer, we should not try to forbid using resources in space or settling on the moon or on Mars or whatever. But we should try to make it happen in a coordinated, in a regulated way so that everybody can benefit and that we do not go towards that tragedy of the commons. So the values of humanity have to be preserved, and doing it together, I think, is really the challenge. And I think law and policy and ethical values can really help us as a guide, but inherently it's going to happen.
Can I just ask, do you foresee any legal innovations in the legal world that could change things here on Earth?
Well, I think, there are, of course, continuously developments. I mean, now you see companies doing smart contracting. They're using AI. We will find new ways to maybe make agreements or maybe negotiate in international fora. I'm sure that there will be new legal tools maybe available at our fingertips, and we should also be open to that. And that is technically maybe challenging, but I'm sure that there are possibilities that we should explore to facilitate that making of agreement and finding of consensus, perhaps in addition to what we're doing already.
Do you want to take that question?
Yeah. I'm a little more conservative in terms of how far we should go initially. Being kind of a bit of an explorer or mostly a sailor, I've sailed around the world, just the two of us in a sailboat. And it took me 9 months to get here from Boston and then complete it, another 9 months, right? So I really think that, and if you think of a sailor, we look at islands, and think about the Polynesians, that were moving from the continent to, and explore all the Pacific islands. They just didn't go out there and look for islands. They saw the first islands. They could see them on the horizon and say, okay, let's try to figure out how to get there. And I think really the moon is our island initially to learn. Very close to home, so we could come back. The Polynesians went against the wind to be able to make sure they can come back if something went wrong. So really going against nature as we are, our nature of Earth, we need to be very cautious in many ways. I mean, take risks, but there is so much to learn. I'm talking about the short term, in the next decades, from the moon, to really get the right life support systems, the right structures, the right propulsion, all these things, that then we can be independent, more independent as we go to Mars or Europa. I agree 100%. I'm a water person. I think Europa is a great place to go and explore. So I leave it at that. I really think that there's just so much to do and so much energy. We can see it here. I remember when I was 20 years old, and these meetings were very small in terms of space exploration and what we could do. Look at the amount of people that gathered here this last week in all these businesses and all these industries, the infrastructure, the suppliers and the industry itself. is massive and getting bigger. It's just like the time of Columbus, after he actually made it, where he thought was the Indies. But after that, there was an explosion of seafaring exploration. And we are now developing the first ships to explore space. And I think humans will and are really spacefaring species. And we will, I think, inhabit many, many of these places that we can see in the telescopes, particularly in the next 100, 200. We talk about millennia of what it took us to explore this planet. I think it's going to take a few hundred years. And even think in millennia, we will be seeding other parts. And I think that's, to me, what has always fascinated me as a young man, a student, to build things, to build architecture that where we can actually have this communion.
So, Devo, where do you think the greatest breakthroughs are going to be? And then we're going to wrap up because we are over time.
I know. Well, so mindful of time, just a few words. And I would definitely reiterate spaces for all. That's critically important, that everyone can see themselves. We need everyone. Again, you don't have to be an engineer scientist. I'm recruiting aerospace engineers, but we need the poets and the philosophers. That makes us all better. So I do see a very bright future, and make sure to send the message, especially to our next generation of explorers, that this is for them. It will be hard. It's cold. It's unforgiving. It's extreme. But I think that's actually why we do it, as mentioned. You push yourself, because just what if we do find life elsewhere? Just what if we get over that horizon, and you can share that? I think that other wisdom that I've heard all week too is that let's learn from the ancient wisdoms. We are new at this, so let's be respectful. And I'm so appreciative of all of the cultures, ancient cultures, they've been looking up to the stars and the moon for forever. Let's ask the right questions about what they see, what they heard, and remember, especially for the moon, it's for all of us. It's for humanity. No matter what culture, what background we come from, we're all looking at the same moon, and I think that's a kind of a beautiful reflection. From the moon, we're all going to look at one humanity here on Spaceship Earth as well.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. I will share that the greatest concern that you all expressed would be not to fail to learn from the past. So definitely the other big message from the film. I wanted to just put a quick sort of call out. This upcoming week is World Space Week, as some of you may know. And so the idea there is for folks all over the world to host events, to connect people to space. And so this film is available for organizations that do want to screen the movie, and we have a whole facilitation guide. And so we want this film to be out there and for different audiences to engage with it. And so contact us to get access to the film. So we want to distribute it. I want to thank everyone. I would love to thank Elena. I'll let you close us out, Elena, but it's been really a pleasure to work with you to bring this film together.
I'm very in tears. I think that, thanks God, everything that we do, we design it. In South Africa, I found someone one day that told me that we design because we desire to do things. The first the first room of architecture, in fact, it's a road, the one that brought us all here. So there is a road out there. If you can support this message, I want to thank you all for being here. I know that there is a community now connected on YouTube. And I want to thank Chris. I know you are there, floating. I know he's following us, but this is just the beginning. Continuará. Grazie.